Hey everybody, Marty here. Now, for those of you who know me, know that I'm online quite a bit. I'm usually focused on my work and rarely in front of the camera. But every now and then, every once in a while, something gets my attention and, well, just pisses me off. This is one of those occasions, so I hope you'll indulge me as I try to explain. I'm pretty particular about who I associate with, and I tend to judge myself as a pretty good judge of character. But every now and then you meet someone that you just simply get fooled by. And that was the case for me and my wife recently. Living here in San Antonio, we all know how brutal the Texas heat can be on our property, especially our lawns and flower beds. So, keeping our lawns in decent condition is sometimes next to impossible. Now, when October rolled around, we had made the decision that we were going to replace our weed infested dirt lawn for a new lush Bermuda lawn. Now, as we continued to research cost and how long the process would take, my wife got the idea of investing in a sprinkler system as well. So we spoke to a few people that we trust, and we were pointed to someone that could possibly help us. So we met with a man by the name of Tony Gonzales. Now, he works for a company named Geosprings Irrigation and Landscaping. Now, you'll notice I said he works for them. There's another player in this game, and her name is Carly Roberts, who claimed to be the owner of the company. Now, Tony comes out, as any good business individual looking for a sale would do, took a look around and said it was a relatively easy job and could fit it within a 2 to 3 day window. Now, being in the business for 20 years, as he claimed, he came armed with examples of his work, and he was very, very thorough in regards to what he examined and where he would place all of the particular sprinkler heads and so on. Now, I had explained to him that we were planning on having grass laid in our yards and wanted to coordinate the schedules with our landscaper, so that way he could come in behind him after the irrigation system had been installed. And of course, Tony said that wouldn't be a problem, and he gave us a start date and said we would have a quote the next day, and there would be a 50% deposit on the covered parts. Now, this seemed reasonable so far. So we contacted our landscaper and coordinated with him. The next day, as expected, we got a quote for $3,000. Now, anytime I spend money, it always seems too high. But my incredible wife did her homework and said this was pretty reasonable considering what's going on in today's economy. And to be honest, we had budgeted for about $5,000 for a resod of the front and backyards anyway. So we were getting a pretty good deal on the grass install and had some money left over for the sprinkler system. So we were fine with the quote. Now, this is where things started to go sideways. Now, the first red flag that we caught was in the contract itself. More specifically, the address of the company. It was a P.O. box in Naples, Florida. Now, before we signed it, I reached out to Carly, and she's the one who sent me the contract. And she informed me that they had just relocated, and they were currently running the business out of their home. Now, that's not uncommon. We see businesses run out of the home all the time. And since the contract was outlined as we discussed and appeared reasonable, we went ahead and signed it and gave them the deposit. The job was to begin a few days later. After the utility lines had been marked, Tony would come in and map the entire area, and this would be done so that the trench work could be done, on time. Our landscaper would start tilling the front and the backyards, and then Tony and his crew would come in behind him to do the trenching. Now, once the lines were placed and the hardware was installed for the sprinkler system, the landscaper could then come in, finish treating the ground, and then lay the grass. Well, that's the way it's supposed to happen. Tony showed up with Carly and another guy named Ivan, and all they really did was spray paint the ground for the map. They also indicated that we had additional repairs that we had to make. Starting to see a pattern. But this was not unreasonable, considering we had just had a water softener installed and we had to do some additional plumbing work for that. So we paid for the repairs, the tilling process proceeded normally, and we were expecting the crew to come out the next day to begin trenching to lay down the PVC piping and get the sprinkler system installed. We were also told that those parts would be delivered to the house. And since I work from home, this wouldn't be a problem. This is where excuses and broken promises began to present themselves. When they didn't show up the next day, I was told that the trenching could not move into a second day. Now, this presumably is because he's paying someone to come out and do the trench work, and he's trying to cut down on his costs. But he said he would be out the next morning and simply knock it all out. Now, Tony's claim was that the trenching should only take a couple of hours. Now, this was red flag number 2. If you know anything about where we live, you know that a majority of the ground is rock, and trenching is not easy and can be time consuming, especially with underground utility lines that stretch across the property. Oh yeah, those parts that were supposed to be delivered never showed up either. He said he called the delivery folks and told them not to deliver because it was a delay. But there were no delays. I spoke to the landscaper about the order of the grass, and we figured we'd give Tony and his crew one full day instead of just the 2 hours that he indicated to get the sprinkler system in place, and we'd have the grass delivered on day 4. So, with the ground tilled and treated, we were simply waiting for the trenching to be done and the sprinkler system to be installed. But the trenching didn't get done because no one showed up. So I called Tony again, and nothing. No response. And after several failed attempts by phone and text, my wife came up with the idea of using a different number. And holy cow, they answered almost immediately. They said they were on their way and were pretty angry at the fact that we called them from a different number. At this point, it was the end of day 3, and as far as we were concerned, the work was not going to get done on time within that 2 to 3 day window that we had on our contract. So I gave them until the delivery of the new grass to get the trenching done and the sprinkler system installed, and we were given every assurance that it would be. When the grass arrived and no one from Tony's crew showed up, we spoke to the landscaper and learned that we were being told 2 different stories. While we were being told that Tony and his crew were on their way, our landscaper was being told that they weren't coming. My wife and I decided enough was enough and requested a refund. And when the grass arrived, there was no way we were going to let it just sit there on pallets in our driveway under the hot sun while we waited for Tony and his crew to come and begin their work. Tony went from unresponsive to angry, blaming our landscaper for the delays. But at this point, we were done listening and gave them the choice of refunding our money or delivering the parts that we paid for. Now, you might think that at this point, this was the end of it, and they would just simply disappear. But not so fast. We got a call late the next evening, and we're told that they were on their way to bring out the parts and would be there on site on our property within the hour. Now, it was already 8:30 at night on a Friday, and it seemed odd that he would be making a delivery so late in the evening. But I could hear Tony. He was pissed. And he said either he delivered the parts tonight or he wouldn't deliver them at all. So I quickly accepted the delivery time, and I reminded him that I would need a few minutes because I would be checking each of the parts that arrived against the invoices that they sent me. After 30 minutes, I got a call indicating that he wasn't coming. And after that, it was just one excuse after another. I'll be there on Saturday. I'll call you on Monday. Then I got a text from saying that his kid was in the ER. I just simply said enough, and I sent an email to Carly letting her know that I wanted the parts or my refund no later than the end of the day on Friday. So we gave them that extra week. My wife thought there would be some recourse by reporting the man to the local sheriff's office, but they simply pointed us to taking civil action. And that wasn't good enough for us, so we started looking further and discovered that we were not the first nor the only victim of Tony Gonzales. So what we learned is that several folks had been scammed by Tony and his company Geosprings Irrigation and Landscaping, also known as Landscape Irrigation Inc. Now, while we were fortunate that Tony did not do any physical damage to us or the property, others were not so lucky. We reached out to other victims on Nextdoor, and they told similar stories about broken promises, unnecessary repairs, and some ended up spending more money to repair damages that he caused on their property. So what are we doing now? Well, we're continuing to reach out to folks and are planning to contact the news media to help us as well. We need this guy brought to whatever justice is appropriate under the law. Now, some victims have taken Tony to court and received a judgment against him, but according to one victim, he didn't show up for court and he may have an alias. And with his ability to spin up a new business name at the drop of a hat, civil action may not give us the remedy that we need. So we're going to provide his picture and a picture of his truck so you can get a glimpse of him, and hopefully you won't fall into the same trap. If you have fallen victim to this man or his associates and would like to support us in bringing him to justice, please reach out to me on social media or use the links that are in the description of this video, so we can meet and discuss what course of action we can take and compare notes. We want to make sure that scammers like Tony Gonzales and others like him do not continue to take advantage and prey on property owners and other folks that are just simply looking to improve their way of life. Thanks, and hope you have a great day.